It's hard to find it on a map, but Gwadar is at the center of one of the most ambitious development plans in the world. Right now, it's a small coastal town in Pakistan's Balochistan province, known more for its fishing boats than skyscrapers. But with the help of billions of dollars from China, Pakistan says this quiet port is going to become its version of Dubai. But can it actually work? How does a town that still struggles with clean water, power outages, and underfunded hospitals transform into a center of international commerce? And more importantly, who's really going to benefit from all this? Gwadar sits on the southwestern edge of Pakistan, right along the Arabian Sea. It's less than 600 kilometers from the Strait of Hormuz, a narrow waterway where nearly a third of the world's oil flows through. From a geopolitical standpoint, this is prime real estate. But for most of its history, it was not part of Pakistan. It was actually ruled by the Sultanate of Oman until 1958, when Pakistan bought it for about $3 million. At the time, it was a forgotten fishing town with no port, no modern infrastructure, and very little attention from the rest of the country. That changed in the early 2000s, when Pakistan, with China's help, built the first phase of a deep sea port. It opened in 2007. On paper, it had everything going for it: deep water, strategic location, and a massive regional market close by. But it barely operated. Because there were no roads, no rail links, no industrial zones nearby. It was a port without a pipeline, and certainly without a city around it. So for years, it sat mostly idle. That changed in 2015, when China and Pakistan signed on to the China-Pakistan Economic Corridor. It was a multi-billion-dollar investment plan with one big promise: to transform Gwadar into a global trade gateway connecting Western China to the Arabian Sea. This time, the plan was bigger. More infrastructure, more money, more ambition. But how exactly is it going to do all of this? Gwadar's coastline looks promising on satellite maps, but zoom in closer and the reality becomes obvious. Paved roads are limited, power cuts are routine. Many homes rely on water tankers because the main reservoir ran dry years ago. And even though new buildings have gone up near the port, most neighborhoods still don't have a functioning sewer system. Locals have lived here for generations, mainly as fishermen. Nearly 70% of Gwadar's economy has traditionally depended on fishing and small-scale trade. But now, even that's getting harder. Gwadar's original port opened in 2007, but for years it handled almost no commercial traffic. It's what some have called a ghost port, built but not plugged in, a symbol of potential but not much more. And this is not unique to Gwadar. Around the world, there are dozens of ports that started with big ambitions but stalled due to poor planning, lack of infrastructure, or local pushback. So when the Pakistani government promised to make Gwadar the next Dubai, it raised eyebrows. And that's where China comes in. The China-Pakistan Economic Corridor is not just about one port. It's about building the entire support system around it, from roads and rail to airports, factories, and energy projects. The goal is to make Gwadar work not just as a port, but as a fully functioning economic zone. But how does China fit into all of this, and what's in it for them? In 2015, when Pakistan and China signed off on one of the largest infrastructure agreements in the region, it was framed as a $46 billion investment package at the time, now estimated at over $60 billion, and Gwadar was placed at the heart of it. For China, all of this serves a bigger purpose. CPEC gives China direct access to the Arabian Sea, bypassing longer shipping routes through the Strait of Malacca. It also allows Western China, especially Xinjiang province, to connect more efficiently to global markets. From Beijing's perspective, this is not just about helping Pakistan. It's about securing its own supply chains, expanding trade routes, and strengthening its political ties in the region. And Pakistan gets the investment it has needed for decades. Roads, ports, power, airports, all things the country has struggled to fund on its own. So on paper, it's a win-win. But does it actually make sense to call Gwadar the next Dubai? When people call Gwadar the next Dubai, they're pointing to a transformation that seems almost impossible on the surface. After all, Dubai went from a desert town to a global hub for trade, finance, and tourism in a few decades. Today, over 80% of Dubai's GDP comes from trade, logistics, tourism, and financial services. Not oil. Jebel Ali Port is now one of the largest container ports in the world. It handles over 13 million containers a year. The port operates inside a free zone that allows full foreign ownership and offers exemptions on import and export duties. It's not just a place where goods arrive, it's where they're stored, assembled, and shipped back out. Dubai built itself around the idea of being a place where trade never stops. So, is that comparison fair? Let's look at what's actually being planned. Gwadar is set up to be a transit and trade hub. It's positioned along key shipping lanes in the Arabian Sea, just outside the Persian Gulf. That's crucial, because unlike Karachi, Pakistan's main port, Gwadar can handle deep draft vessels, larger ships that carry more cargo. That alone gives it a strategic edge. But ports don't make money by sitting still. They need supporting infrastructure. This is where the Gwadar Free Zone comes in. It's an industrial and commercial area where companies can set up shop with reduced taxes and fewer regulations. Think logistics centers, assembly plants, storage facilities. The goal is to create a zone where goods can be imported, processed, and re-exported quickly and cheaply. If this works, it could generate jobs for thousands of Pakistanis. Local officials have estimated that Gwadar's population could grow from under 100,000 to nearly 500,000 in the next decade. That kind of growth brings investment, but also pressure. There's also the energy sector. Chinese and Pakistani firms are building power plants near the city. Some of these are meant to feed the port and free zone directly. Others are supposed to support the broader region. More stable electricity could unlock small business activity that's currently held back by outages. And what about connectivity? The new Gwadar International Airport will make Gwadar more accessible to investors, government officials, and eventually tourists. A ferry service linking Gwadar to Oman and the UAE is also in discussion. All of this points to a city that wants to become a gateway, not just for Pakistan, but for Central Asia and Western China as well. That's the vision. Trade flows from China, Central Asia, and Afghanistan, down through Pakistan and out through Gwadar. But how realistic is that? The truth is, some of this is already happening. In 2020, Gwadar handled its first Afghan transit shipment. In 2025, another major fertilizer shipment for Afghanistan arrived through the port. These are small steps, but they show the port is starting to function. Pakistan's exports to Afghanistan rose by more than 30% in 2024 to 2025, and the government says Gwadar's improved accessibility is part of the reason. Still, the port is not anywhere near capacity. Cargo volume is low, and much of the infrastructure in the free zone is still under development. The idea of turning Gwadar into Dubai is not about copying skyscrapers or luxury malls. It's about making it a major point of regional trade and investment. And while the geography is promising, there's another reason China is betting so heavily on this port. It's not just about business, it's also about strategy. To understand how, look at geography. Most of China's trade, especially oil and gas, travels by sea through the Strait of Malacca, a narrow choke point between Indonesia and Malaysia. It's long, vulnerable, and tightly watched by rival powers, including the US Navy. Gwadar offers a workaround. From here, goods can be shipped directly into Western China by road or rail, cutting thousands of kilometers off traditional sea routes. That's why China is building highways all the way from Gwadar through Pakistan and into Xinjiang. It's about shortening supply lines and reducing risk. But there's more. Gwadar is also part of what some analysts call China's string of pearls, a series of commercial ports across the Indian Ocean that could, in theory, support Chinese naval operations in the future. Officially, it is a civilian port. There's no Chinese military presence. But the deep water capacity and China's control over operations have led some to question whether that could change. India, for one, is paying close attention. It sees it as part of a growing Chinese presence in the region. In response, India has developed its own port just 170 kilometers away, in Chabahar, Iran. That port is meant to bypass Pakistan entirely and connect India directly to Afghanistan and Central Asia. It's a direct counterweight to Gwadar, and it's funded in part with Indian and Western support. So while Gwadar is a construction project on the surface, underneath it's a strategic contest, not just between China and India, but between different visions of regional influence. And for Pakistan, it offers more than just economic promise. It strengthens its partnership with China, what both countries often call their Iron Brotherhood. It also gives Pakistan an alternative to its older ports like Karachi, which are closer to India and historically more exposed during conflict. So what does the future look like? After years of delays and overpromises, some parts of Gwadar's plan are finally moving forward. The East Bay Expressway is finished. It connects the port directly to Pakistan's national highway system. That alone makes it easier for goods to enter and exit Gwadar by road, something the original port lacked. The new Gwadar International Airport, backed by a $240 million Chinese grant, is completed. That's a key step toward making it more accessible, not just for cargo, but for investors, government officials, and eventually commercial flights. These are small but meaningful changes. They show that Gwadar isn't just a construction zone anymore. It's slowly starting to function. But slowly is the key word. In a best-case scenario, Gwadar becomes a reliable trade outlet for Western China, Afghanistan, and Central Asia. It handles commercial cargo, fuels industry in Balochistan, and creates jobs through manufacturing, logistics, and services. If that happens, it could add billions to Pakistan's economy and strengthen regional trade links. But that outcome depends on more than roads and ships. Security has to hold, local trust has to improve, and economic planning has to be more consistent than it has been so far. There's also a worst-case scenario. If the port continues to underperform, if protests escalate, and if debt concerns deepen, Gwadar risks becoming a high-profile failure, an expensive project with limited real-world impact. That wouldn't just hurt Pakistan. It would raise doubts about China's entire Belt and Road strategy. The ambitions are large, the money is real, and the need for development in the region is obvious. But calling it the next Dubai oversimplifies what's actually happening here. Dubai had very different conditions: oil wealth, centralized control, access to global capital, and decades of planning. Gwadar, on the other hand, started with limited infrastructure, local resistance, and security concerns. The question is not just whether Gwadar will look like Dubai, it's whether it will work for the people who already live there. That's the real test. So what do you think? Is Gwadar on the right path? Can it deliver on the promises made over the last decade? Or are we watching another case of big ideas hitting hard limits? Let us know your thoughts in the comments below.